YouTube, Paul from Helpful Tips at Home here. Today I'm going to show you how to blow down your in-ground sprinkler system. It's mid-October, late October I should say, here in New York. It's a beautiful day today, but the winter is looming, and before you know it, it's going to be below freezing. So we want to get all the water out of the system so we don't have any problems next spring when we start it back up. So let me show you what we need here. Obviously we need a compressor with an air line. We're going to need a wrench to disconnect, or I should say remove the plug on our water line here. Teflon tape to reseal that plug when we reinstall it. And a couple of years back I made up this air fitting, just screw it right into that where the plug was to introduce the air. So let's get started. Alright, before we continue outside, the first thing you're going to need to do is come downstairs or wherever your water supply line is to your sprinkler system, and in my case it is in my basement, and find the valves and turn them off. I have two valves here, so I have a little redundancy going on. Just going to find those, locate them, and turn them off. There's one, and there is two. The next thing I do, the way I've done it for all the years I've had my system, is I go to my controller box and I turn each zone on manually. Give it a generous amount of time. I usually give it 30 to 40 minutes. I'm not a big fan of bypassing the valves outside, and I'll touch on that when we head back out. So right now I'm just going to turn this to manual. Zone 1 should pop up by default after I turn the system back on. And I'm just going to add some time. I'm going to bring this up to about 30, 35, 40 minutes to give me plenty of time to get out there and hook it all up and do what we need to do. Okay, let's head back outside. Alright, like I said, down in the basement, here is your manifold outside. Typically, if you hire a sprinkler company, when they come, all they're going to want you to do is make sure your water supply valve is off inside the house or wherever it may be located. Then what they're going to do is connect up their compressed air to your system and manually twist these valves one by one to open each zone up. Not a fan of doing that because I have heard stories and seen them get broken by them doing that. Typically you don't find out until the spring when you start up your system. That's why I go ahead and set the time on my control panel in the basement. So now I'm just going to put the cover back on this. I do take it off just to be sure everything is dry and there's no leaks. The next step now would be to remove the plug in your water supply. This is what you need your wrench for. I've already loosened it. So you're going to want to take this out. Put the plug off to the side. So you're going to have to reinstall it when we're done. Take our valve with the air fitting. Install that. You don't need to make this tight. You don't need to worry about Teflon. You just want to have it snug and in a good position that you can operate the valve easily when you're introducing the air and you want to turn it on and off. Now we're ready to connect the air line. This is just a quick connect. You just put that on there, pull back on the collar, push it down, let the collar go, and you know you're connected. The other thing you want to do is you want to make sure that your air pressure is not very high. In my case, I know my water pressure coming to my house is between 75 and 80 psi, so I'll usually blow this down at about 60, 65 psi. Once you open up, or I should say once I open up the valve there and the tank starts to empty, the pressure will drop because it's an open-ended system at that point. Once I open the air valve, the compressor is going to kick on after a few seconds and it will be noisy. So I'll just go around and show you how the air is blowing out, and you'll see once the compressor tank is completely emptied that it will take some time to recover. My compressor is not very large, but it gets the job done. I usually do each zone 2 to 3 times. So now I'm going to proceed to start with zone 1, and we just simply slowly open your valve and let the air start flowing. will notice that when the water is starting to be mostly removed from the system and it's just mostly air, and you won't see any of this. It will just be a straight hissing sound. You can see already it's starting to be mostly evacuated. Just to get off topic for 1 minute here, another thing that I do when I blow my sprinklers down is I cover up my central air unit on the outside. Just covered up with a very coarse cover. There's a very coarse mesh on this cover. Just put it on there for the winter so no leaves and other debris get inside. However, it will allow the water to go in and then come out the bottom and drain as it's designed to drain. We're just going to take this cover, drape it over the top, and then just use those 4 short bungee cords to secure it. It's very simple. I'll install it and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. This mesh screen is now installed. Like I said, it's very simple. You just take your bungees, hook one on the eyelet on the cover, and then carefully get one in the fin of your AC unit. This way, over the course of the winter, no large debris can get inside the unit and help to clog it, and the rain can go in and drain right back out the way it's designed. Never, ever, ever cover your unit completely in plastic, like a large plastic bag or something like that, because that will rot out the unit over time. Zone 1 is completed. All the water has been blown out from the system. I've already gone downstairs and changed over the panel to Zone 2. So now we'll open this one up. It's going to be some water right here by the valve because Zone 2 is right next to where I'm standing. Zones 1 and 2 have been blown down. Now I'm going to do Zone 3, which is in the backyard. So I'll open the valve and I'll walk back there so we can see what's going on there. In my case, Zones 1 and 2 are all mister heads, which consumes a lot more air to blow it down completely. In the yard, I have 3 rotary heads, so they take a lot less time to blow down. They go rather quickly. All the zones are now blown down. So now I come back down to the basement, and what I'm going to do first is turn off my sprinkler control box. Just simply switch it to off, and that is it for the season. Just now close the door, forget about it. The next thing, now some of you may or may not have this on your system, but as you can see here, I have a drain that I can drain down the rest of this copper loop. So what we can do is just simply unplug that, open that valve, and drain it down. The other thing we'll do is we'll open that blue valve so everything can drop down that loop. So let me just get a cup. We have our cup. We're going to open the blue valve here. And this is why I have the secondary valve, to prevent any water from coming on over. Because if I didn't have this valve, I would be recharging the pipe and just draining house water straight out of this drop. So as I said, some of you may or may not have the capability to do this. If you didn't have this second valve, you would just open this and drain the water out of this short loop. So in any case, we're going to take the cap off. Let me just switch hands here and open the gate valve, and just whatever remaining water is in this pipe, drain it on down. This way I'm assuring that everything in that copper pipe, that short bit that's of copper pipe that is outside of the house, will be drained now of water. And we'll just let it drain out and close the valve once we stop a flow. So that's it. The water has stopped flowing. We will now close this valve again. Put our cap back on and reclose this valve. And as far as the basement is concerned, we're all set for the winter with the sprinklers. Now let's head back outside. Now we will disconnect our air line, remove the valve, and put the plug back in. You just pull back on the collar. The next little trick you should do, open the valve, because there might be a little pressure left in the line. This way you release it and it comes out easier. And this should just come off easy because we just made it hand tight. Make sure you install Teflon tape on your plug so you don't have any leaks next spring, because if all goes well, this will not be removed again until next fall when we blow it down again. You want to make this hand tight, then use your wrench. Do not put too much pressure so you snap the pipe. You should hold the pipe like this and then just snug it good. You can always re-snug it in the fall, in the spring, if there is a slight leak of water. All right, there you go. So that's it. Now you know how to blow down your sprinklers. If you watched the video and you have any questions, please put it in the comments. If you learned anything, if you already do your own sprinklers, maybe I showed you a trick or two that you didn't use on yourself. So in any case, I hope you enjoyed the video and please subscribe to my channel.